Hey there, I've decided to do my fandom presentation on the Halo franchise. Halo is by all time one of my favorite video games I've ever played. I love it today, I've been playing it for 20 years. Um, so basically, Halo is you play as a Spartan. Your name is Master Chief, or Sierra 117 if you're getting technical. Um, yeah, so as a Spartan, you are trying to prevent the Covenant from activating these Halo rings. The Covenant thinks these Halo rings are a ancient artifact that's there to guide them to the great beyond, which is a load of bull, if you will. When in fact, what they don't know about it is that the Halo rings were designed from the Forerunners to eliminate all life within the galaxy to prevent the parasite called the Flood from spreading. The Flood spreads by it's like these little spores that can jump into any living thing and burrow in and turn them into a glorified zombie pretty well, just a lot worse. um yeah, so they took over the world prior to when we were introduced into the Halo franchise. And the backstory about it is the Forerunners built all this technology to stop the Flood, and then they activate it themselves to eliminate all the Flood, therefore eliminating themselves because it kills everything in the galaxy. And then years and years later, that's when the human race comes into play, and we stumble upon it. But the Covenant think it's a religious artifact to them, so they're trying to activate it, not knowing the true terror behind it. So, throughout the Halo franchise, you start off as Master Chief. You find the first Halo ring when you're escaping the planet Reach, and you blow it up. And then Halo 2 is you play as Master Chief again, and the Arbiter. The Arbiter is an elite, like a high ranking elite that was in charge of the first Halo ring to make sure it was fired and safe and nothing happened to it. But since Master Chief destroyed it, you as the Arbiter are made an example in front of the entire Covenant fleet. You lose your entire rank, you lose all your dignity, and they make you the Arbiter, which is a line of disgraced elites that are now placed into suicide missions. During this time, there hasn't been an Arbiter for 20 years or so, but due to the situation, he was placed in that role. So now you play as the Arbiter as well, and then you're chasing down the. They're basically just a traitor to the Covenant, when in fact they have the Oracle, which is basically a little robot that works for the ring, since it's not a real, it's artificial life. So it didn't get destroyed by the ring, so it's the only thing that was around for the Forerunners. So it knows the true purpose, and it explains it to the Arbiter. Then he goes, "Hey, I know what's wrong here. The Covenant's a bunch of jerks, and you have to be stopped." So by the end of Halo 2, you end up working with Master Chief. Sorry, God. Yeah, you work with Master Chief, and you put an end to the Covenant as best as you can. But now that you've officially turned on the Covenant, all elites are kicked out of the Covenant army, and brutes take over. Now, brutes are. They've always wanted to be the one in control, but the elites were so strong and so powerful that the hierarchs of the Great Journey always had them as their royal guardians. And now that the Arbiter has forshamed them, that the brutes get to take that role now. And that's where the real sign of corruption comes in to this game. Now there's fighting on the inside between the elites and the brutes. And by the end of it, all of the elites just join with the human race, that they need to be stopped. They are on a path to kill themselves and the entire world, basically. So yeah, that's what Halo is all about. You play as either Master Chief or the Arbiter, and you go through, destroy all these rings against all odds, which is crazy. So yeah, now let's get into the details about it. So the first game produced by Halo was Halo Combat Evolved. It was released on November 15th, 2001, and by 2015, they sold 65 million copies and made $3.4 billion. Halo 2 was released November 9th, 2004, and it was the best-selling game for its generation. It was 6.3 million copies sold in the US alone. Halo 3 was September 25th, 2007. It had 14.5 million copies sold and raised $170 million. So yeah, those first three games, along with Halo Reach and Halo 3 ODST, were all designed by Bungie. Now, Bungie did an amazing job with these games. I've loved everything about. So Bungie focused on the human race and the Covenant, which is fantastic. They're my favorite games by far. But next we get into where they sell off to 343 Industries, which focus more on the Forerunner technology. And that's where you get to know how the rings were built, what the Oracle is, and everything along those lines. Which it's a completely different turn into the Halo franchise. So instead of fighting the Covenant now, you're fighting the Forerunners. And so basically in Halo 4, you end up stranded on this Forerunner planet, and you end up releasing this prisoner they had held there for years, which is a complete accident. And basically he wants to use all the Forerunner technology to make himself a god, essentially, and take over the world. So you have to put an end to him, and surely enough you do. And then Halo 5 is where it gets really complicated and wasn't my favorite story at all. I didn't like this game that much, but it is what it is. Halo 5, basically Cortana goes rampant. Now Cortana was your best friend and your only ally through the whole franchise, and now she's an artificial intelligence, and they're only supposed to last 15 years, but you've been in service for 25 some years. So she's deteriorating and going rampant, which is making her go crazy. Now she's starting to act like an evil villain. You have to track her down and put a stop to her actions now, which I get the theory behind it, but I'm not a big fan because I've always loved Cortana, and now seeing her as a villain is it bothers me. But you know what they say, either you die a hero or you live long enough to become a villain. That's all there is to it, I guess. And yeah, Halo Infinity is coming next, and it was also made by it's being made by 343 Industries. It's going to be released on February 26, 2009. No, sorry. I read the wrong thing. 2021, so this year at Christmas time. But yeah, so Halo 4, they sold, well, it raised $220 million in 4 hours, and by the end, or 24 hours, and by the end of the week, it made $300 million. They sold 10 million in North America alone, and Halo 5 sold 5 million copies. And there are also, Halo does a bunch of books and movies as well. The books, there are 18 different books. The Fall of Reach, The Flood, First Strike, Ghost of Onyx, Contact Harvest, The Cole Protocol, New Blood, Hunters in the Dark, Saint's Testimony, Last Light, Shadow of Intent, Smoke and Shadow, Envoy, Retribution, Legacy of Onyx, Bad Blood, Silent Storm, and Renegades. I have never read the books myself because I've always been too busy just with school or other things, or I've never even seen the books, but I'm hoping to order some online soon once I graduate. I'll have some more free time to myself. But yeah, I definitely want to give them a read. I can't really recommend it just yet. The Halo movies is Halo Legends, which was released in 2010. Halo The Fall of Reach, which explains how Reach fell and the importance of that to the human race, and how that gave the Covenant such a strong hold over the human race. And then Halo 4 Forward Unto Dawn, was released November 2nd, 2012. I did see this movie, and I thing I liked about it a lot is it's not about Master Chief, it's just about human race trying to survive. So this movie was a elite terrorist comes into the human race into like a mall and detonates a bomb, pulverizing the entire town. Then you track down this bomb to the Hunters' home world. The Hunters are basically in the game, they're this big, bulky, armored enemy that's very hard to kill. But in reality, they're a group of worms that can form together and make any shape possible. So they have to fight through all these swarms of worms, which is unbelievable. Yeah, and then Halo has a great community, and they do have lots of fan art. I'm not too tech savvy with how to pull up like slideshows and stuff while doing a video. So I'm just gonna show you that I googled here, and it's just all the fan art here. It really does look amazing, and I love it all myself. I'm wearing a Halo sweater right now, actually. And yeah, that's the fan art side. If you have Pinterest or Reddit, I highly recommend just looking up Halo fan art. And there's thousands upon thousands of amazing items you get to see there. And yeah, some fun facts about the Halo franchise is around 2015, they made the Halo Master Chief Collection, which instead of installing 5 or 6 different games, it's every Halo game. Well, almost every. It's Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, then Halo 4, 5, and ODST, and Halo Reach, all installed into one game. And you can play all of them in every multiplayer aspect of it together with your friends online. And the one thing I like about that game a lot is if you explore the world, there's little terminals throughout the game where if you activate it, it shows you like a little 2-minute video just about the history of it and the Forerunner technology. And that's where I got a better understanding of the Forerunners before. And it just makes everything so much more interesting. And one of my favorite terminals that showed me is about the Arbiter. The Arbiter was just a basic elite growing up. And the first mission you play as the Arbiter is you have to go kill an elite traitor. And throughout the dialogue through that mission, you wouldn't think that they would even know each other from previous lives. But it turns out, throughout this terminal, it showed us that the Arbiter and this elite were actually best friends growing up. And it's just crazy to show how much of a different life they led. And that's just my favorite thing to know about Halo. Just little details like that really make a franchise to me. And in conclusion, I love Halo. I always have. I plan on getting a Halo tattoo soon enough, actually. But yeah, if you're into video games at all, I highly recommend Halo with your buddies, or even if you want to do it by yourself. I've played it for 20 years and I don't get bored of it. Every now and then I put it on just to have a good time and chill. I can't recommend the books because I haven't read them myself, but the movies are good, the games are good. I love everything about it, and yeah, I hope this intrigued you into the Halo franchise a little bit. Perfect. Thank you.